everyone. I'm Brenda Viola with Lymphopress, and I'm excited to bring you another inspiring lymphedema patient story. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Deborah Carson, and she has amazing photos on Instagram showing how fit she is. Deborah, it's so nice to have you here today.
Thank you.
How'd you find out you had lymphedema?
Okay, it's a long story, I guess, but I'm sure everybody's is to some extent. I was 21 when I found out I had lymphedema. I'm now 40. So at that time, I was running Division I college track. I was a sprinter at the University of Northern Iowa. And I had a lump in my upper left groin that had just kind of appeared. And I was pretty proactive about injuries and anything that seemed out of whack because I wanted to perform my best. Obviously, at that time, I was a junior at that time, so pretty into doing well in my sport. And so I got it looked at by trainers, doctors. I even got MRIs, and it was kind of came up with being subcutaneous fat. But regardless, it was getting in the way of sprinting. It kind of hindered my range of motion, especially when I was sprinting shorter distances. So at the end of my junior season, I opted to have it removed from my upper groin to basically return to form for my senior year, ready to go, ready to leave my mark. But there was swelling after the surgery, which was typical, they said. It was a very minor surgery, you know, it's just it was a lump in my upper groin. It was probably about this size. And it just never went away completely. But I did what some athletes do, and to some extent, I just ignored it and continued and started my fall track. So I had a little swelling in fall track, and it'll go away is kind of my thought. But it was one workout. It was, if you are a sprinter, and if I say you're running 7 250s, you should want to instead maybe run 10 miles. It's that hard to run 7 times 250 meters with about 3 minutes rest between. It sounds easy, but
Oh no, it does not sound easy.
it sounds better than running 10 miles. And I swear to you, I would rather run 10 miles, but very hard workout. And at that time, I had started my cycle. So I had a lot going on, which wasn't a big deal. As a woman, we deal with a lot, and that's just something you deal with. But I did notice it seemed heavy and didn't think anything of it. When I got to the workout, I was concentrated on trying to hit my split times. I did amazing. I crushed the workout. I did awesome. I felt like a sense of accomplishment. Walked myself to the weight room to go lift weights. As I was about to lift weights, I was looking in the mirror, and I was looking at my leg about to squat, and it looked like something was oozing down my leg, under my skin, because I was wearing shorts so I could see, on my left leg, which was crazy. And I was like, something is wrong with this mirror. And then I looked at my leg in real life, and I was like, wow, this is happening in real life. So it was like a slow moving wave of fluid making its way down my leg. And of course, I alerted the trainers. Everyone thought I had a blood clot. You know, I wish I had a blood clot. I remember wishing that was all it was, and that, yes, that's it. Let's fix it so I can once again move on with my life. But, you know, that wasn't a blood clot. And then just fast forward to no one really knowing what it was. And my mom, I was from Minnesota. I was going to school in Iowa. My mom in Minnesota was very worried. So she contacted my doctors that I used to see when I was doing sports here in Minnesota. So I immediately drove home, went to the University of Minnesota the next morning, and met with some specialists, and they're like, you have lymphedema. So that's how I was at 21, got lymphedema, I guess you can say.
So this condition often a triggering event will produce it. And it sounds like that's what happened to you. You had a triggering event
Yeah.
that showed what was there all the time. And
Yeah.
that's the difference between primary and secondary. Secondary is it develops after a surgical intervention or something like that. But primary can be hidden all those years.
Yes.
And then this triggering event.
Mhm.
Now, you just recently found out, though, that it was primary, didn't you?
Yeah, and it's been very interesting, because if you would have asked me a few months ago what my motivation and what my reason, and I think that these kind of things I'm talking about right now are things that when you have lymphedema, you need a reason, you need a why, and you need kind of like to have a constitution about yourself to kind of tackle and go to bat with lymphedema daily, you know. And so I had this constitution I had written about myself, which was that I thought I had secondary lymphedema. I thought something had happened to me. Maybe we thought it was maybe the surgery of taking the lipoma is what they decided it was, a lipoma out of my upper groin, or just basically the lipoma itself forming there, damaging my lymph nodes. um, Whatever the reason was, it was something that happened to me, and the end result was still the same, as that I had lymphedema. So I was more focused on the fact that I had lymphedema. It wasn't going away. How do I manage this? And I didn't really dive too much into the fact that it was, in my mind, secondary versus primary, you know what I mean? So for all these years, it was something that happened to me, which is just a different motivation for the things that transpired after being diagnosed. But yeah, it was a hard like whirlwind when I walked out of the University of Minnesota, and they gave me like a really quick tutorial on how to wrap my leg, and they measured me for garments, and I walked out and I had like bags of foam and compression bandages, and I was like, Mom was like, okay, you're gonna go back to school and then tell them that you can't run track. And I was like, I guess so. And that was really hard. I hadn't even started my senior season yet, because it was like just past fall track, and track usually starts winter indoor and then spring outdoor track. And so I was like, yeah, I'm a full ride sprinter here, and I'm not gonna run because apparently I'm not supposed to do anything too strenuous for my leg. I have no idea what this is.
How overwhelming and
Yeah,
how heartbreaking.
it was just like hitting a brick wall of like life change, like you're an athlete, not anymore, you know. And Division 1 full scholarship athlete, felt pretty guilty just to sit at the sidelines and not do anything. But I also was a little in denial, and was kind of hoping that my body would like figure itself out, and maybe I would like not have this. Can we just not have this? It was a really abrupt thing. And then also the death sentence of there's no cure and this is forever. And I'm like, so.
I think you bring up an important point, which is, we all know the stages of grief.
Yeah.
And in an instant,
Mhm.
this diagnosis and this condition changed your life, and it took some time to process it,
Yeah.
let alone learn how to manage it.
Yeah.
So here you are in your senior year. Did
Mhm.
you didn't
I
run?
didn't run. I mean, I spent a lot of time getting out of denial, deciding, do I wrap every night? Do I wear this garment every day? Um, and, being female, I was single at the time, 20, 21, 22. There's like a whole vanity piece of, do I wear shorts? But if I wear shorts, I just won't wear a garment. And then I won't wear a garment, and then obviously I'll pay. Like, it was just like, it was, very like, I knew I had it, but I also was trying to not have it. And
Totally get it. And I've heard that from so many, particularly young women,
Mhm.
who say they knew they would pay the price for not wearing their compression, but they just wanted to look like everybody else.
in a way, like, it's like you want to blend in and be everyone else, but you also want to stand out in the way that you stand out. So you're also trying to be yourself. And I think like many women, even whether or not they think so or not, some women would say maybe they're not into fashion, but you express yourself through fashion. You just do. You know, whether it's that I want to wear sweatpants that day or if I want to dress up that day, I'm expressing myself. It's an extension of my personality. And my personality and what I wanted to portray was altered every day and still is to some extent by my lymphedema. So that was something that was really hard to navigate. It was also, you know, you're always comparing yourself. More so when you're younger, I think, than when you're more secure. As right now, I don't really spend too much time comparing myself, but back then, you know, it's inevitable. And when you're not like every other female and or anyone else that you see, it's really hard to feel comfortable. And how do I date? Do I tell someone about this? And how that seems, it was just a lot to think
Our
about.
mutual friend Cam Aiello was just on the Wendy Williams show, and he was saying, I tell the people I date right up front, because if I'm going to take a vow in sickness and in health, you need to know what you're getting into here.
Right.
But it took him, and look, he was diagnosed at age 11.
Yeah.
He had a whole lot of time to adopt and embrace and accept who he was. How did you finally get to that point?
I think it wasn't gracefully. I think people might like to think that when they see the end product sometimes of the things I've accomplished, but it's still not graceful, you know. But it was definitely harder in the beginning. So I had moved home after I graduated from college, home being Minneapolis. And at that time I met a man named Carson, who obviously you can tell I eventually married with my last name being Carson. But at the time, he was just a guy that I had gone on a blind date with, we had a mutual friend. And I decided on this blind date to not wear my garment under jeans because it was just so uncomfortable and I wanted to feel like good. So I'm not going to wear my garment. By the end of the night, I was limping a little and he could tell. And he said something. He's like, "Are you okay? It looks like you're limping." And I was like, I think that's probably one of the last times I didn't wear a garment, by the way. But I was like, yeah, I just told him. I was like, I have this thing with my leg, and I tried to explain it the best I could. And I think the reason I told him is because I could just, you know, you meet people and you can tell
This one's a keeper.
Yeah, he cared. He wanted to listen. And I told him. And the thing that I say about Patrick is that he was over my lymphedema before I was. It didn't bother him in the least. He saw me for me, and my lymphedema didn't come before that. For me, when I look at myself at that, especially back then, I see my lymphedema first before I see me sometimes. That was opposite for him. So in a sense, I had to catch up to him. And as we continued dating, there was a time, it was a pivotal moment for me, and it shifted everything for me. I was managing my symptoms, but I was doing it begrudgingly every morning, unwrapping my leg, putting on my garment. But the worst for me, it was at night when I'd have to, you know, sometimes I have to roll my bandages and it was just so much. And then I have to, like, you know, everybody knows, put the foam on and all this. The whole process took a long time for me. And I just wanted to go to sleep. I just want to brush my teeth. I don't want that to be the worst thing I have to do and go to sleep. And I couldn't. And I started to cry. And I told him, I don't want to do this. I can't imagine that I have to do this the rest of my life. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm sick of it. And he looked at me and he said, you know, I've only known you for 6 months, but in those 6 months, I already know, I hate to say this to you, but if anyone has lymphedema and has to deal with it, it's got to be you. You're the strongest person I know. He's like, if I had lymphedema, it would be out of control. My leg would be completely messed up. I would be having cellulitis all the time. Like, it would be horrible. He's like, you are the strongest person I know. And I'm sorry to say it, but you're the best person to have lymphedema. And I was like, thanks at first. But
what
then,
a nudge, though. What a nudge, because
yeah.
he spoke to that fighter inside
Yeah.
of you. And it pivoted from something that you begrudgingly did to something you aggressively did.
Yes.
Embraced it.
Mm-hmm. I did. I did. And it started I started to see it more as I saw it when I was an athlete. I mean, I wasn't just a sprinter. I was a gymnast for 10 years before I was a sprinter. So the way I would attack those things and the goals that I had in those avenues in my life, it wasn't easy to do the things I did, to accomplish things I did in those sports, but I did it because I knew that the end goal was worth it. And so it was the same thing with lymphedema, where it's not easy to take care of my leg day in, day out, make sure that my garments are washed and ready to go the next day, make sure that my bandages are, ready to get on my leg at night, all those different things. But I do it because I know that the end goal is, I'm rewarded with being able to live a more comfortable existence, to feel more myself, to be able to put things on clothes wise that feel more like me. It's
Mm.
worth it. So
So not just comfortable, but downright fierce. When I see your Instagram photos, my goodness, power, strength, resilience. I
yes,
see all of that in your photos. So you stopped running competitively as a senior in college, but somewhere this all came back.
I think with first starting to take care of my leg, I thought to myself, I'm doing pretty good at this. Let me just start walking. I literally started by walking. So in the mornings I'd get up and I would channel my mom, who loves to walk, and just, I knew what I could do or what I had done, but I'm gonna just walk and be okay with that and see how my leg handles it. It was fine. I'd walk for 30 minutes in the morning before I went to work, and that was good. And then I started being like, let me walk and then run a little bit, and then walk in the end, and then let me just run for half an hour. So the way that I started getting back into being an athlete was just baby stepping and just kind of assessing how it affected my leg. If it was okay and it didn't seem like it made it, the situation worse, I would maybe add a little bit more here and there. I started weightlifting. And so anything I did with my fitness, my journey it didn't feel like I was being an athlete. I was just kind of adding in fitness. I wasn't trying to be an athlete. I was just trying to add in fitness. But the athlete in me had never died. Um, in fact, the athlete in me was very upset with the way that my athletic career ended. And at the time I can fast forward to about when I moved to New York, I got my master's, I came back to Minnesota, and all that time I was adding in fitness. But while I was fitnessing, I was thinking of me being an athlete and wishing that I could do something to show my athletic ability. But I was past an age of college athletics and all that stuff. And one day when I had moved back from getting my master's, I ran by a CrossFit gym. It was new back then. It was about 2010. And I walked in, and there was a guy sitting in the middle who owned the gym. And I was like, I have no idea what this is. I'm just curious. And he said, it's CrossFit. Did you want to stay for a workout? And I said, sure. And I stayed for a workout, and it felt like home because it was a mix of gymnastics and aerobic activity. It was a mix of who I was. I lifted weights. I was a gymnast. I ran track. So all these things we were doing felt like perfect. When the workout was over, he came to me and he said, I can see you have a talent. Nobody walks in and can do the things that you could do. And I was like, yeah, I just like to work out, whatever, trying to downplay the fact that I felt the same way. And he said, there's a thing called the CrossFit Games. It's the pinnacle of our sport. Not many people can make it to. It's the World Games. I know this is crazy. I'm going to send you some videos. I think you can be a CrossFit Games athlete. And I was like, whoa. This guy didn't even know I had lymphedema. I was wearing like long running pants.
Isn't that beautiful? He didn't need to know.
No, he didn't know. Once again, not something that he cared about. But I was aware that I'm like, in my head, I was like, I want to, but there's no way I have lymphedema, is what I was thinking. I'm like, I can't do this. I went home and watched the videos, and I showed Patrick. I'm like, yeah, I went to this gym, and this guy wants me to do this stuff. Look at this crazy stuff these girls do. Like, he was showing me some CrossFit Games footage from like 2009 or something. And I was like, I cannot do that. There's no way. So I just went to CrossFit. I would go and do it, and he would kind of like say things like, "Oh, you could be competitive." I'm like, I'm just gonna go and compete a little bit while I'm in class and then go home.
Okay, I want to just stop for a minute because there are people watching who have dreams in their heart that they are squelching or putting on the back burner or saying, I can't because of lymphedema. And I just don't appreciate your candor and your honesty in saying, I missed being an athlete, but here I was presented with an opportunity. I'm like, no, 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 no.
Mm-hmm.
So what is meant for you will not miss you. And I want to encourage everybody in the audience about that. If it is a dream of your heart, I don't believe it is put there to be frustrated. It is there to bloom. And so I can't wait to hear how this bloomed for you, Deborah.
Well, I would say it's a lot like how I started doing fitness, where I walked first. And I think when that coach in the gym kind of put that little dream in my head of maybe going to the CrossFit games, and I told myself I can't have lymphedema, there was definitely another person in me that was like, you have to do this. Like, it's going to happen. And I was like talking to myself, like, yes, I know, but let me baby step my way there. So I just kind of went to the gym, tested out myself in most of the workouts he programmed. CrossFit's a mix of weightlifting and gymnastics and running and all sorts of things that can be melded into a workout. And sometimes it's just one thing melted in, it can be anything and all things. I was fine. My leg was fine. Still, no one knew I had lymphedema at the gym. I would wear long Lulu pants and no one knew. And quietly by myself, and I kind of mentioned something to Patrick back then. I think he was still just my boyfriend. I said, the CrossFit Games season in 2011, I think I want to try to compete in it, and it's like, okay, So it starts with the CrossFit Games Open, and I signed up for the Open, and I told the coach, I was like, hey, I signed up for the Open. He's like, you did? I'm like, yep, signed up for the Open. So first workout, it's like 5 weeks long of a worldwide competition. Anyone can enter the Open. And at the end of the 5 weeks, if in your region, you're in the top, I think it was 40 or something, you could go to regionals. And then from regionals, if you're in the top 3, you can go to the games. So at the end of the first 5 weeks, I ended up number 1 in the region. I mean, I saw it coming because obviously 5 weeks, every workout, I was like, I got second in that workout. Okay. Next workout, next week, I got first in that workout. And then it started becoming real. I was like, I'm going to make to regionals. There's no way I'm not going to get top 40. So I think I should back up in the last workout, the 5th workout of the Open. I knew I was going to go to regionals. I wore for the first time capri pants, capri, like, I guess you could say, what are they, tight pants or whatever. And so you could see from my calf down, or so from my calf down that I was wearing a garment. New to everybody. Everybody was like, say, what's on your leg there? And it was really hard to walk into the gym finally. And I felt like I was nervous for the workout, but I was more nervous for everyone staring and wondering, but it felt like liberating, I almost felt naked, but it felt great to be like, yes, I've been doing this with lymphedema. And it's like, you say it, but then they're like, say what now? And then you have to explain it, what lymphedema is. And my coach, I remember he was looking at me and he was like, I've just never like seen your legs like before, it was more like, I've always been covered. And then even fast forwarded to when I made it to regionals, I wore shorts. So there was a lot of like, I remember the first comment was like, what do you have, like a robo leg? Like, what is that? Like, oh, you forgot your pant leg, and just a lot of comments about.
I just want to smack those people right now.
Like,
but I love that you said yes to that voice that was nudging you. And then it led to this unveiling where you could fully show everybody who you are. And what a source of inspiration for the people watching to know that lymphedema did not limit you.
Yeah. I at no point when I had been diagnosed with lymphedema thought that I was going to be some kind of a person who people would be inspired by, or that I'd have, uh, some people wanting to look up to me and how I manage I never thought that would be who I would be. But once I got to a place where a lot of eyes were on me and I could possibly make it to the World Games, it became everything I wanted. I wanted to make sure that anyone that thought they couldn't do, what they thought they were going to do, who was diagnosed with lymphedema, to know that you can. It takes a little bit more work, but the little bit more work that it takes gives you that edge. So, while everyone else is so worried about, what they're eating or how they're training, like I'm also worried about my leg. And I felt like the fact that I had more going on gave me an edge. Like you can throw anything at me and I will tackle it. I promise you what I have to do is worse than what you have to do, is kind of how I gave myself like I had a little chip on my shoulder, but it was giving me an edge. So I went to regionals and I made it to the games my first year. I made it to the World CrossFit Games and I was 31 at the time. I was very much older than a lot of the women that I competed against who were in their younger or early 20s. So that was also.
That's another
Yeah.
tip.
Yes, I was like, I'm a lot older than you guys, and here I am. But I felt like if you want to find that, their slogan was to find the fittest in the world. I was like, if you want to find the fittest in the world, you're not doing it without me. So I felt like I needed to be there, and I had to be there, lymphedema or not, I needed to be there. So yeah,
this was 2011, right?
11, yes.
10 years ago, and you've only progressed.
Yes, at some point I did retire from competing at a certain point. But this is me, and I just happen to have this here because my daughters now, I have 2 daughters, wanted to see me compete, and this is one of like my most iconic photos of me at the 2011 games.
Wow.
They pulled me aside and wanted to take a picture of me before I started. So you can see I very proudly have no issue wearing my garment out in public. It's actually more comfortable in many ways to wear shorts with your garment because there's no restriction. At least for me, the way my lymphedema works, like shorts, sometimes if I wear capris, it can create like an extra, too much compression at my knee. So I actually prefer to wear shorts.
I have to ask you, what did your daughters say when they saw that photo?
I mean, my daughters are the same as my husband, where they don't see lymphedema, they see me. Obviously, they think it's all they know, which is interesting. So they've never seen me without it, and obviously they think I look Mom is really strong. Mom's really strong. I'm like, yeah, you are
Mom
too.
is really strong.
You are me. I am you. You are too. Is what I say.
Even taking lymphedema out of the equation, so many times we are so critical of ourselves, and so what we think is so pronounced, nobody else even notices.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they do, our own comfortability with it affects the energy with how people interact with us. So I think the lesson you're teaching your children is everybody's got something. I didn't let it limit me, and don't let whatever you perceive as being imperfect affect you. And I think that's a message for all young girls, women, everyone. We all had something, but love who you are.
Yes. It's one of the blessings of, it's a roller coaster having lymphedema. I'm not always on a high. But one of the blessings of having it while having children is I just automatically teach them so many lessons about, especially little girls, how to view yourself, how not to compare yourself, what really matters, what doesn't matter, and it's just all by having a chronic condition, and doing what I do every morning, how to have discipline, and Mommy, why do you wrap your leg every day? Because I have to, in order for me to have a good day with you tomorrow, so I'm not worrying about that, and just do how you do what you have to do, and how you are rewarded then in the end. Even the smallest little goals, you still have to do what you have to do. So, I always liken it to, like, for them, like brushing your teeth. You know, I'm like, you ever want to brush your teeth, but your teeth will fall out if you don't. So, okay, I'll brush them. Exactly. So that's why I take care of my leg, because it will not be well if I don't.
I know that many of our viewers are saying, how can I follow this amazing woman? And you can see her posts on Instagram at D Cordner Carson, and I'll put a graphic up. As we're running out of time, what words would you give to someone watching who maybe has had the rug pulled out from under them or their dreams because of lymphedema?
Well, I'd say the first thing you can do is just concentrate on what you can control. Um, is there going to be emotion behind everything that you do when it comes to lymphedema? Absolutely. There is. That part is inevitable. You're going to feel some kind of way about your lymphedema every single day. Given that, what can you control still? When I focus on little things like that, it helps me get from one step to the next. And that's how I tackle it, even down to, can I take care of my leg today? Just do that. You know, we know that it's something that there really is not necessarily an end in sight. There's some surgery options, but you know, they're not available to everybody, and they don't always work 100% for everybody, and all those different things you don't need to think about. Just take care of your leg today. Once you can get past taking care of your leg, you can start opening it up to coming back to who you are and really thinking about what it is you want out of life, regardless of your lymphedema. Who you want to be, what you want to present to the world, what goals you have are more important than worrying about taking care of your leg. Those things will come. Just take care of your leg. You have to take care of your leg. And it's so beautiful on the other side. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying there aren't going to be days. I still, to this day, have days where it is, my window of tolerance is small because I wake up and maybe my leg isn't doing that well. And those days come and go, and good days will be there. Just always know that if you can tackle and do what you can do that day for your leg, you can then move on to be who you need to be that day. So
I want you to know that you're remarkable, and you know this, but you're remarkable. You are inspiring. And I know you're doing a service for many people out there with lymphedema. It was a privilege to interview you, and I hope to continue the conversation and use this platform or any platform to help tell your story, because I have a feeling the best is yet to come. There's more stuff coming your way. And I am going to be applauding, and so will our audience. And I want to thank you for tuning in to this edition of the Lymphedema channel. For more inspiring stories like Deborah Carson's, please subscribe to our channel here on YouTube, follow us on social media. And if you know someone whose story deserves to be told, send them my way, bviola@medsoulsupplier.com. Until then, thank you. And Deborah, thank you.